and welcome to a special Briefings Direct podcast series coming to you from the 2014 Ariba Live Conference in Las Vegas. We're here the week of March 17 to explore the latest in collaborative commerce and to learn how innovative companies are tapping into the networked economy. We'll see how these companies are improving their real-time business productivity and sales, along with building far-reaching relationships with new business partners and customers. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inner Arbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of Ariba-sponsored Briefings Direct discussions. Our next innovator case study focuses on the new face of customer engagement and procurement modernization. We'll see how MSC Industrial Supply is improving how they define and relate to their customers in the manufacturing sector. We'll learn how MSC has been using the Ariba network to bolster customer engagements and to provide new and innovative solutions to their customers as well. So join me now in welcoming our guest. We're here with Eric Gershwind. He's the president and CEO of MSC Industrial Supply in Melville, New York. Welcome.
Good morning, Dana. Welcome. Thank you for having me today. Great to be with you.
Very good. Eric, let's start at sort of a high level. What are the pressures that your customers are facing? Why are they looking to change things? What's wrong with the status quo?
Great question, Dana. So most of our customers are North American manufacturers. And one of the sea changes that we've seen occur, particularly since the 08-09 global recession, is, you look back for the past 2 decades, there was a heavy focus by procurement, supply chain, and finance organizations on price, on cost. And of course, that's still critically important. But since the 08-09 recession, I think businesses around the world, and certainly manufacturers in North America, now have a much greater awareness on the importance of cash flow and speed through the supply chain. So that's probably the biggest thing that we've seen in the past few years, is our customers telling us that speed of the supply chain, getting to market faster so they can have more of their products into their customers' hands faster, is becoming a much bigger priority.
And so to be swift, agile, and lean in the way you go to market requires you to back up and look at your internal processes and get lean there. Is that right?
Dana, that's exactly right. Leaner supply chains turn into shorter lead times. Shorter lead times mean faster speed to market. And all of that requires really tight dependency from every single link in the supply chain. So what we found is that everything that's happening in our supply chain right now is driven by the end user, what's happening with the customer. But that customer's needs is working its way all the way back very quickly. And collaboration, which is enabled by technology, is making it critically important in order to be effective in leaning things out.
Well, I certainly want to learn more about how you're modernizing procurement and bringing benefits. But first, tell us a little bit about MSC for those of our listeners and readers who are not familiar with you.
Sure, Dana. MSC is a distributor of industrial supplies. So we sell over 1 million items, and primarily into manufacturing or any maintenance environment. And that could be anything from a safety glove to an abrasive to the most advanced metal cutting tools that are used in the manufacturing process. And we exist so that we can help businesses focus on their business. And we do that by ensuring that supply chains run smoothly. And our small part in that bigger mission is around taking the complexity, the obstacles, and the inefficiencies out of MRO. We were founded over 70 years ago on a tiny storefront on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and everybody at MSC, including myself, has been part of what's been an amazing growth story.
And with MRO, you mean maintenance, repair, and operations materials?
That's exactly right, Dana. Essentially, anything that's an indirect part as part of a production process. So not the raw materials, not the direct stuff. All of the other things that keep plants running, that's what we specialize in.
Great. Now, another thing that's going on, in addition to business pressure to be lean and agile, are some technology improvements over the past several years. One of those is a topic of the day, a hot topic, big data, and the analytics that you can derive from more and more types of content, gaining more and more insight. So how do you then get information or acquire insights or analysis that can allow you to then bring better approaches to your customers and helping them be lean and efficient?
Dana, it's really a great question because Historically, when I looked at the core assets of MSC as a distributor, there were three things I'd highlight. Our people, first and foremost, our inventory, and our distribution centers, our physical assets. And what we're quickly realizing is there's a fourth one that's every bit as important as the other three assets, and that's information. Because you're absolutely right. With every transaction that occurs, especially because of technology now, there's learning in there. And to answer your question, we are using technology to help us harvest that data, use it to drive improvements in our own four walls, but more importantly with our customers and with our suppliers. And maybe I'll give you two examples of how we're employing technology. One is Ariba. So Ariba is the perfect platform for connecting buyers and sellers. It's a network, but it's a network that leaves footprints. With every transaction, there's a footprint left behind that's waiting to be mined for operational improvements. Another example is our vending initiative. So we at MSC will take a little piece of ourselves and put a vending machine on the plant floor of our customers to store tools and take responsibility for procurement. And certainly one advantage is security and inventory optimization, but there's information to be mined in each one of those machines, and we're using that to help our customers.
Very interesting. Tell me a little bit about your history of working with Ariba. How long have you been doing it, and what are the chief benefits that you see in using Ariba's network and various cloud-based services to conduct your own procurement and tighten up your own processes?
So MSC's been a seller on the Ariba network for well over a decade. If you bear with me, I'll share a quick story, a trip down memory lane. I remember one of our very first Ariba interactions. It was close to 15 years ago, and one of our customers at the time, a big manufacturer, asked us if we can get up and running. They wanted to get up and running on the Ariba network in less than a month's time. And the three partners together, the customer, MSC, and Ariba, rolled up our sleeves. We had teams working on the same side of the table for a month straight. It was a great example of collaboration, and I still remember us huddled around the computer screen waiting for that first transaction to go through. I'm proud to say that customer relationship is one of the best we have still today. In terms of the benefits that we as a seller see, there's three things I'd point to. Number one is certainly enhanced revenue growth. Number two is cost savings because transactions are now done electronically. But I'd call out the third one as the most important. Ariba is helping us collaborate. It's bringing business networking to happen faster, more efficiently, and more frequently. And those collaborations are resulting in innovations to our supply chains collectively that are driving improvements.
All right, Eric, I'd like to return to this notion of the vending machines that, as you said, was an extension of your business into the actual physical plant of your customers. This reminds me of what happens in technology on the internet, that big bundles of objects and data, rather than going from the server of the originator down to the individual user, we have what we call content delivery networks, CDNs, where we put those objects out as far towards the last mile, if you will, as possible. It seems to me that this is a interesting development for physical goods, and you also, of course, get the data back on how they're used. So explain to me your rationale and how far you've taken this into the market, this concept of the extension of your physical distribution capabilities into the very physical plant of your customers.
It's, Dana, vending and the idea of extending ourselves into our customer supply chains is a critical element of fulfilling our mission of helping supply chains run more effectively. And maybe what I'll do is share a quick example with you. One of our customers was recently in New York, and this is a customer that used vending machines for us. So this customer has about 150 vending machines installed as part of an MSC system across 75 locations in North America. And that system is yielding tremendous benefits for them. Well, recently their MRO category manager was in New York and shared with me that at one site in Alabama, one of this company's locations, their people were doing a mile-long walk there and back just to get to a centralized storeroom and get a supply or replacement part of a tool. So you think about that for a second, a mile walk. If somebody's doing that just once a day, and by the way, many are doing it multiple times a day, they're walking a marathon by the end of a month. So by bringing inventory closer to where work is getting done, this company is saving time, and they're translating that time savings into real dollar savings.
I suppose there's also a common thread here with mobility, where people can use their mobile devices, their smartphones, to conduct businesses, activities and processes, and allow for checkoffs and OKs and so forth, reducing that last mile and compressing the distance. It also reminds me of being able to, in a sense, cross boundaries, organizational boundaries. They become fuzzy. Your organization's inside another, for example. So let's take this to maybe a little theoretical level. As we look 3, 4, 5 years down the road, is the nature of buyer and seller changing? Are we really combining them into a common supply chain ecosystem where there's not an adversarial relationship necessarily, but something different, more collaborative?
Dana, you just hit the key word. It's collaboration, and I think you're right. The way we look at it, it's really just we're all part of one supply chain. There's no such thing anymore as my supply chain and your supply chain. It's one supply chain, and we're all interdependent parts of the one bigger supply chain. And the reality is we can't be effective without each other. And that's how business is going to be run. And more, the beauty of Ariba is more and more, it's making that collaboration happen faster, more efficiently, and more effectively.
Now, what about the data? Returning to that subject, if it's okay with you to share data with Ariba and Ariba to share data with you, and then we extrapolate that across industries, verticals, and go global, the amount of information we're gathering, even anonymized and private, gives us great insights. We can start to be more predictive. That is to say, know what your supply chain and your customers will demand maybe quite a bit before. Or we can identify risks when things go amiss sooner rather than later. So do you have any thoughts, Eric, about the future of analysis and intelligence when we apply it to the supply chain equation?
Yeah, Dana, it goes back to the idea that as a distributor, we used to think of ourselves as being in the hard goods business, and of course we still are and always will be, but we're also in the information business. The biggest change and trend that I would point to is the idea that information is now being used beyond our own four walls. So at MSC, we always did a fairly decent job of mining our own data for supply chain improvements, forecasting, understanding what to purchase within our four walls. What's now happening, and it all starts because of our customers' needs, that's working its way back through the supply chain, is data and information is now being used to help our customers and even our suppliers run their businesses better. So the vending example I gave you is a great one. We're now, as I said, each one of those electronic transactions is a footprint. The same thing with our website. So e-commerce now represents nearly 50% of MSC's revenues. Every single one of those transactions leaves little breadcrumbs behind that give us insights that we're then able to use and share with our customers and further back in the supply chain with our suppliers.
And it seems to me, Eric, too, that it requires a third party like the Ariba network to aggregate and bring intelligence to bear on this massive data. I know that they're leveraging the HANA platform from SAP more and more to do that sort of big data analysis and intelligence gathering. How important is it for you to look at that third party and see them in a trusted fashion? Could you do this alone? And are there many other organizations that can fill the role like Ariba Network is?
So the answer is, I don't think anybody can do it alone anymore. That's really the nature of the supply chain that we just talked about. What Ariba does is it brings businesses together. So think of it as a virtual networking forum. And it used to be in the old days that you were able to network when you got together maybe once a quarter. Ariba's letting that happen real time, all the time. Are there others doing it? Maybe, but none that we trust more than Ariba. As I said, we've been doing it for well over a decade with them, and we view them as an extension of ourselves into our customers.
All right, we're about out of time, but let's again look to the future a little bit. Any ideas about what you'd like to see from your unique position in the supply chain business, in manufacturing and in indirect goods? What would you like to see for the next revolution?
Dana, the one thing I'd point to that we haven't talked about is the opportunity that's sitting right in front of procurement and supply chain when it comes to indirect materials. So for the last decade or so, procurement has done a wonderful job cleaning up direct materials, getting clear line of sight, optimizing the supply chain and taking cost out. Earlier this morning in the general session, I referred to direct materials as the garage of the house because everybody goes in. It's a high-profile spot. Everybody's in it. It's core to your operations, and it's gotten a lot of attention. Well, indirect materials is like the attic of your house. If it's anything like my attic, it's neglected, the light bulb hasn't been replaced, so it's dark, and you can't see what's going on. And what we do know is that today, sitting in North American businesses is $145 billion of MRO inventory alone, let alone broader indirect materials. And we also know that 70% of that is likely to never be used. So sitting in front of procurement is a $100 billion opportunity that we collectively, and it's not just the job of procurement, all of us as a supply chain, it's sitting there waiting for us.
So what do you mean? How do we attack this problem, clean up the attic, as it were? Do we need to have better inventory? Do we have just-in-time supply chain and ordering and fulfillment? What is it that we need to bring to indirect that's missing?
Dana, there's three things that I would say we want to bring to indirect procurement and get at the attic. Number one is looking for time. So the natural bias is to focus on cost. But what we've come to learn with our customers who are doing it well is if you focus on time savings, the cost savings does follow. That's number one. Number two, we need light. We need light up there, and we need to bring a flashlight with us. That flashlight is technology. Technology like Ariba. Use technology as the flashlight. And then the third thing, and we've been hitting on it all morning here, is collaboration. Get another set of eyes. It's hard to see things by yourself. You can't be successful on your own. So bring partners in and help you attack that $100 billion.
So we're really talking about modernizing indirect procurement in ways that we've already established. We know these things work. We just have to establish the will and then bring it into that part of the business.
That's it. It's about taking what we've already done in the garage and applying it to the attic. That's right.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been talking about how MSC Industrial Supply is improving how they define and relate to their customers by bringing new innovations to the indirect procurement process. And by examining this user's experiences, we're learning how MSC has leveraged the Ariba network to bolster their customer engagements with new insights, technology, and innovation. So a big thanks to our guest, Eric Gershwind. He's the president and CEO of MSC Industrial Supply. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Dana.
And thanks to our audience for joining this special podcast coming to you from the 2014 Ariba Live Conference in Las Vegas. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inner Arbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of Ariba-sponsored Briefings Direct discussions. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.